Hi, I'm Femi OK.
And I'm Malika Bilal, and you're in the stream live on YouTube. Today, a stream update. Issues brought to us by you, our community.
Will Ambazonia become Africa's newest country? Voices of Cameroon's secessionist movement are getting louder. And then we meet a journalist who took a personal journey into the practice of female genital mutilation. Fatma Naib from the Al Jazeera series correspondent joins us.
But first, why was Chad added to the recently amended White House travel ban? A new social media campaign is urging the United States to reconsider. Here's Abu Bakr, who pitched us the story.
A country that fights against terrorism needs to be honored, needs to be respected, and needs to be worked closely with. And that's why when Chad was put on a travel ban by the USA, we as Chadian people were shocked, we were surprised. Why would you put Chad on a travel ban list? And that's why we started hashtag Chad travel ban to ask why Chad has been banned. It doesn't make sense, there is no logic behind it, and there are no data supporting it. And the hashtag has been supported by so many people globally, and it has caught the attention of so many international organizations. And we feel the objectives of the hashtag were met because now people are aware we as Chadian people were against this ban, and we're asking why the ban has happened, and we're also showing that we are fighting against terrorism and we have excellent relationship with all countries.
Not many people know why Chad was put on the new White House travel ban that was updated in late September. The country has been an ally of the United States in the African continent. US President Donald Trump's executive order said Chad does not adequately share public safety and terrorism-related information, and that several terrorist groups are active within Chad or in the surrounding region, including elements of Boko Haram, ISIS West Africa, and al-Qa'ida in Islamic Maghreb. Chad's government has issued a statement asking the White House to reconsider, and activists like Abu Bakr have mobilized online to put pressure on the US government to explain itself.
Well, joining us now, Ibrahim Dahab is a Chadian University student at the George Washington University. And Reed Brody is a lawyer with Human Rights Watch who spent 18 years helping victims of the former dictator of Chad, Hissène Habré. Welcome to the stream, gentlemen. I'm going to start with a tweet on my laptop. Two tweets, actually. This is Jabreen, and I'm going to pass this over to you, Ibrahim. Jabreen says, I don't think this decision was made on logical reasons and reliable information. The impact will be painful on Chadian students, businessmen, and immigrants. So that describes you, at least one of them, a Chadian student. What has the impact been like on you? Have you felt anything yet? Of course, we know it goes into effect on the 18th of October, but just in even the lead up to it, what's the impact been?
Well, it's definitely brought a lot of attention to my country, and you have many students being very interactive with us, asking us questions regarding how they can help. Personally, I had many family members planning to come visit me, but unfortunately, tourist visas have been stopped, so they won't be able to come. But as a student, no, there's not really a big impact on it.
Your first reaction when you heard the story, honest, candid reaction, what did you say?
I definitely thought fake news.
Really?
Yeah, because that was the last thing that would cross my mind. Because as a strategic ally within the region, we were really the last people, that would be added on the ban.
Let me share something with you from Reed Brody's Twitter page here. I'm no fan of Idris Deby, but Chad ban makes no sense. Reed, unpack this for us. What does it actually mean? Why?
Well, first of all, no country should be in the travel ban. But, even in Trumpian terms, this just makes no sense. I mean, the irony here is that, as Abu Bakr said before, a main reason that the U.S. supports the autocratic, corrupt regime in Chad is precisely because it is a linchpin of counterterrorism efforts in a very volatile region. The Chadian military works, fighting Boko Haram in Nigeria and Cameroon. It helped defeat an al-Qa'ida offshoot that had split Mali in two. It plays host to major U.S. military exercises. If you wanted to pressure the Chadian government on human rights or on democracy, let's remember that Idris Deby has been the president for 27 years now, that would be welcome. But counterterrorism is the one thing that the Chadian government actually seems to do very well. So it really, it just makes no sense.
I'm glad actually that you mentioned that. You actually used one of the words that one of our tweeters also used, linchpin. This is Akash, though, and he got into a little bit of an exchange with someone else on Twitter. He said Chad and Nigeria is where Boko Haram are active. He got smacked down pretty readily by someone else. This is Abu Bakr, who says, get your facts right. Chad fought against Boko Haram in Nigeria and defeated them, similar to what you just said, Reed. But I want to pause it over to something else. Now, this is just a theory, but I want to show you something that we got from several members of our community. This is a tweet from CD, who says, I think this has to do with Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, arm twisting the Chad government after they slammed $74 billion fine on overdue royalties on ExxonMobil. Here's what that actually looked like. This is a news report that came out in June. Exxon settles dispute with Chad over tax payments and avoided a $74 billion fine. Reed, what do you make of that idea? Definitely a theory, but what do you make of it?
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, I have to say it was one of the first things that I thought of. But when you realize that the matter was settled, that Exxon has licenses, Chad has major oil deposits. Again, here, I mean, human rights, good government, anti-corruption people, the Chadian people have been pressing the government to use that oil money in a transparent way that's good for all the people of Chad. And the World Bank and others have basically been trying to hold Chad's feet to the fire. Exxon came in and said, basically, we don't care what you do with the money. We want to exploit oil and make money. And so I don't know, So I don't know that Exxon's role here from the very beginning has been that positive, but I don't think that they have a particular interest right now in upping the ante. Chad could very well retaliate, and then where would ExxonMobil be?
So we did a little Chad by the numbers. So Ibrahim, you can fact check this for us. We were trying to work out why would Chad be on the travel ban. Have a look at what we came up with and then look to see, like, what is the relationship between Chad and the US? 141 Chadians entered the US. This is in the past year. One of them could have been one of your relatives, perhaps. 79 Chadians became US permanent residents in the last year. And the number of Chadians refugees allowed into the US, 7. Ibrahim, it's not like there's a big footprint of Chadians in the US. What's the community like here?
Yeah, these numbers are definitely not surprising. A large majority of the Chadians, whenever they do travel, would travel to European countries, France, Germany. Many students actually go to school in North Africa, Tunis, Morocco, Algeria. So there's not really a large presence of Chadians within the United States. The majority of them come here either as businessmen or as our diplomats here, the embassies in New York City and in Washington, D.C. So there's definitely not a large number of visitors that come here from Chad.
We actually just got this comment via YouTube because, of course, we are streaming live on YouTube. This is Kasu, who says, the ban was meant to punish countries that don't obey U.S. orders. It has nothing to do with human rights. Reed?
Well, there are a lot of, again, I mean, no country should be on the travel ban. I mean, let's look at the big picture here. I mean, the travel ban was created to implement Donald Trump's promise to keep Muslims out of the U.S. And this travel ban 3.0, basically it threw in Venezuela and North Korea to enemies of the U.S. And one just has to speculate that they were looking for another country to throw in to dilute the list a little bit. I mean, there are a lot of countries in the world that don't support the U.S. foreign policy that are not on this list. And Chad generally is supportive of U.S. foreign policy. I mean, that again is the big irony here.
So many parts of this are ironic, I think our community would say. Reed and Ibrahim, thank you so much for joining us. We have to leave it here, but thank you for your perspective. We'll continue to follow this story. Now to protests in Cameroon, perhaps one of our most requested stories to follow up on by our community. This is Ian Glaze, a journalist who pitched this story to us.
Since the last time we spoke here on the stream about the protests in Cameroon, the situation has actually gotten worse. We've seen an increase in the death toll. The number of persons that have died as a result of this crisis is alarming. We've also seen that the people have shifted their demands from what they initially started demanding last year, which were reforms. We're asking for reforms in courts, in schools, in the way French and English is being used. But more and more people here, especially in the last 2-3 months, are now demanding for independence and asking for a separate country from the present-day Cameroon.
An Anglophone separatist movement in the southwest and northwest of Cameroon is gaining momentum. Protests have been raging for a year now, shutting down schools and courts, and recent violence between security forces and opposition activists killed more than 17 people, and that's according to Amnesty International. Cameroonian President Paul Biya has condemned the deaths, and his government has refuted reports of a massacre in the region. Both sides are calling for dialogue and resolution. Here to discuss the ongoing issue with us, Eugene Fongwa. He's a Cameroonian journalist for the Standard Tribune. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming back. It's almost a year since you were last here. Let me share this with you from Judith. Judith says the violence by Cameroon army has aggravated the situation, radicalised and made more extremists. You need to demilitarize the southern Cameroons. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you reporting on? The atmosphere, if you could take us into these English-speaking regions, what would we see?
Right now, the situation in the English parts of Cameroon can best be described as uneasy or calm since the violence on October 1. Remember that October 1 is the year, the date on which the English parts of Cameroon became independent and then joined the French-speaking part of the country to form current-day Cameroon. And on that day, activists came out to symbolically declare the independence of the state because, as one of your listeners has pointed out, it's become an increasing demand for the creation of a new state of Ambazonia or southern Cameroons. So right now the region is tense. It's not certain that schools have fully resumed. Partially, the courts are still yet to see lawyers show up, and the number of troops in the region has gone up more than threefold.
This idea of seceding, breaking away, it sounds strange. We weren't necessarily talking about this a year ago, Eugene. Where did it come from?
No, it's always been there. The separatist movement in the Anglophone Cameroon has been there for decades, except that for a long time it had been dormant. And when the demands began late last year for reforms in the way the language is used, in the respect of cultural, linguistic, as well as legal and educational differences, that kind of rekindled the separatist spirit. And while the government was delaying in responding to these issues and preferring to use force to crack down, the separatists found space and sprung up and have now taken over the struggle.
You know, Eugene, we've gotten, of course, a lot of tweets about this, and many of them are from people pushing for the independence movement. But we also know that the internet was blocked for some time. And so how people are getting around that is interesting. This is John, and he says, the movement has evolved with social media blockage. A group of Anglophones based in South Africa launched SCBC TV, which is satellite-based. And the news is mostly directed to Anglophone people because they have no other way of talking about their issues. Eugene, how are communications right now? And is this an effective way of making sure that people in the diaspora can talk back to people in the country?
I think one of the major consequences of the blockage of the internet was the creation of the Southern Cameroon's Broadcasting Corporation. which has been doing a lot of, in quotes, propaganda and driving the message of the separatists. It's broadcasting via satellite, and so many people, even in the most remote parts of Anglophone Cameroon, with simple satellite dishes on their roofs, can receive signals. And they have been communicating a lot. So they have been able to mobilize and educate the people on the conduct and to come out en masse to protest, as we saw on October 1. So the channel has been very instrumental. The government still had to shut down the internet. Right as we speak, the internet is only partially available in parts of the northwest and southwest. So there's been a second shutdown.
Eugene, I don't want to give away your secrets, but you're coming to us via Skype. How do you do that?
No, I'm in the UK right now.
Okay, all right. Let me just ask you this about Cameroon's Anglophone crisis. And we were asking our community, economic deprivation, is it about language? Is it a cultural issue? This is what Arthur says. All military and other trainings in Cameroon and most official documents are done in French. No one cares about the Anglophones. Still the issue, or has it changed in the past year?
That hasn't really changed. I mean, the government has created something they're calling a multicultural commission, a bilingualism and multicultural commission, which is intended to address issues like this. But at this point, we still see a lot of communication coming out of government offices in French. It's interesting to note that the language of command in the Cameroon military is French, which means that Anglophone soldiers must take orders in French. And so it's things like this that have caused many Anglophones to feel that there is a systematic attempt to erase their identity, especially at the level of the language. The government did do something that is interesting, launching for the first time in the 60-year history of the country, a department of English instruction at the School of Magistracy and Administration, which is a school that trains the country's top magistrates and administrators. That just happened this year, and the first students are currently being enrolled.
Eugene, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be keeping an eye on the progress of what's happening in Cameroon and the protests, as well as we keep in touch with what's happening down on the ground. Now, why does the dangerous and painful practice of female genital mutilation, or FGM, persist in so many countries? That's the question a new Al Jazeera film called The Cut, exploring FGM, seeks to answer. Here's a clip of a village that has taken a stance against it in Kenya.
All of my classmates who are from this community, all of them have undergone circumcision, and they were not able to go on with their education. We lost a few girls in this village because of circumcision. When you talk to men, they don't even know what girls undergo.
Do you know what actually happens when a girl is cut?
How
Do you have a daughter? How would you feel if someone said she needed to be cut?
Well, joining us now from Stockholm, Sweden, my friend and journalist Fatma Naya. Welcome to the stream, Fatma. That had to have been a powerful moment for you to sit there and watch them watch FGM in practice. They said, we have not seen it and we don't know how it's done. So I want to start here with this tweet. This is from Tony of Men and FGM. He says, what specific role does Fatima think men can play in the fight against FGM? Taking into mind your experiences there in Kenya.
Yeah, it was, like you put it, very powerful to witness that moment. And I personally, I couldn't watch the video, but to me, sitting there next to them, hearing the cries of the baby, and until today, it still haunts me. You hear her scream, and then just watching their reaction. I didn't need to watch the video. I just watched it, and then after just asking them, like you saw in the clip, they were really taken back, and they had never seen it before, because it's always done behind closed doors. So they didn't really know what it actually entails, and I could see that it shook them. And I do believe that men in some cultures, they are the cause of it, they are the driving force behind it, but they can also play a bigger role because they can play a big role in ending it. And again, it depends on the specific culture, and it depends on the specific country. So we cannot have the same answer everywhere, but I do believe that men play a big role in ending FGM.
Fatima, Nimco Ali asks this. Interested to know why she did not go to Eritrea or Ethiopia and use her story of change in a generation there, almost seeing you as an activist.
Yeah, I'm originally from Eritrea, and there are two reasons to why we didn't go to Eritrea and we chose to go first to Somaliland. For logistical reasons, we couldn't go enter Eritrea. And the second reason is we wanted to go to a country where FGM is still legal, and Somalia has the highest rate of FGM prevalence. It's 98%. So journalistically, that was the obvious choice for us. And I, as an Eritrean, I was already the driving force, and I knew that we're going to, in my journey, it was going to end in Sweden, where in the film, I end up sitting with Eritrean women of my mother's generation, and I do talk to my mother in the film as well. So we did not need to go to Eritrea, and there is a reason why we went to Hargeisa.
You mentioned your mother there. That, of course, was the most touching, poignant moment for me as well, watching you, because I know you're a journalist, and then having to bring in your family into this documentary. Afra on Twitter, it shook her too. She says, please ask Fatima all about her mom being featured in the doc. Featuring the mom was the most touching bit for me. How did your relationship change after that, and what were the consequences of having your mom talk about a sensitive topic?
It was very difficult, and to be honest with you, the moments leading up to starting filming and throughout the whole journey, in the back of my head, I was constantly thinking about my mom. And as I learned about the severity and what actually happens when you're caught, despite me doing all my research and knowing about all the facts and the figures, nothing prepared me for meeting women who told me about the difficulties that they face. So it was difficult. And the moment when I sat down with my mother to ask her, I was very relieved to know that she did not have to. She was cut, but she had type 1. And in comparison to what the other ladies I met in Somaliland and in Kenya, her cut was not the severe one. So that was a relief. But since then, I feel that our relationship has become more open, not just with my mother, it's with my father as well. Because for the first time, I can hear him talk about this, and it's very endearing to hear him talk to my mom and ask her. He didn't know about, because it's not something that you talk about, not just because it's a taboo, it's just not something you talk about like a regular topic. So now, everyone is talking about it. Men are sending messages to my father, telling him about how they feel about the film. And it's been really positive feedback. And I'm also getting a lot of messages from men sharing their sisters' experiences, their mother's experiences, and them saying, like, yes, we want to talk about this. So the openness about this topic, I'm talking about it with my mother, with my niece. She's 12. We watched the film together when it first aired, and we are talking about it, and I do believe being open about the topic and the more we talk about it, I do believe that this could be one of the key reasons to how we can ways or how we can actually end FGM globally.
So we got this question here. We have just about 30 seconds left, but Naima says, what percentage of people you interviewed use religion as a reason to continue the practice?
Surprisingly, culture was actually much, much stronger than religion, because like you could see from the phone, there is no religion that says that this is acceptable, and it's just culture was mainly mentioned. And I also want to emphasize that this is not an African problem; it's a global problem. Even if it's a global issue, and it's important to remember that it's not just an African problem.
Fatma Nayeeb is a journalist. She's also in Al Jazeera correspondent series. You should watch this film. It's remarkable. The Cut, exploring FGM. You can watch it online right now at aljazeera.com. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Stream. Maluk and I will see you online as always. Take care.